Hello! I'm actually in Edinburgh now. I know. Who'd have thought it? And I'm here with Ash Pryce, who's a magician and the co-founder.
Co-founder.
Oh, you got my co-founder of the Edinburgh Horror Festival.
To be fair, in the early years, co-founder was also correct.
Well, I mean, you've got to get the money from somewhere, haven't you? Yeah. How is that going? Are you all sorted for this year?
Oh yeah, we're doing quite well. We've got our program we're going to be releasing on September the 1st.
Well.
Just kind of give a bit of background on the Horror Festival.
Yeah,
people who are going, what's the Horror Festival? Who's this person? Why are we talking to them? And what room are they in? Well, we're in the cinema room of the Banshee Labyrinth, Scotland's most haunted pub. And this is my year-round performance space, my home. The staff here are like family. And in fact, in one specific case, actually family, because I'm married to her. And yeah, I'm one of the rare exceptions of a performer who actually lives in Edinburgh and doesn't just come up for 3 weeks in August. And so the Horror Festival began in 2016, and it's always been based primarily at the Banshee Labyrinth, which forms a part of the Edinburgh Underground Vaults, which I'm more than happy to talk about in more detail, because
I mean, all the vaults under the bridges.
Edinburgh's underground city, which isn't a city and only bits of underground. But apart from that, the title is accurate. And so the Banshee Labyrinth is our primary home. We put on it essentially a horror themed little mini fringe. We also do events out at Lauriston Castle. I do some seances out there. We've done work with various different organizations around the city, and we've got lots going on. We kind of open it up to anyone who wants to take part, to submit their show. We've got lots of theatre, we've got lots of comedy, lots of spoken word, some variety stuff going on, and yeah, it's really good fun. And it's at the end of October each year.
How many years has that been going now?
So this will be our 8th year, and I am actually including 2020 in that as well, because we did do a 90% digital output, but also was able, due to the way the restrictions worked, to do some level of in-person stuff. It was walking tours outside, which we teamed up with the Edinburgh Dungeon for, but we were able to do in-person stuff in 2020.
Wow.
So yeah, we have done something every year since 2016. So it's our 8th year.
That's so exciting. Yeah, I've been on some of your horror tours or your spooky ghost tours. Yeah. What parts of spooky Edinburgh do you cover from that?
So to be honest, it's most of the traditional stuff. There's a lot of great history about Edinburgh. And so we cover things like cemeteries and bridges and all things like that. Even if we don't go into some of them, we do end at the Banshee Labyrinth usually, or the dungeon in previous years. So we've done all sorts of things. And we do talk about a few little things as well, because my tour is a magic and witchcraft tour. I talk a bit about the magic of Edinburgh. So I talk a little bit about the Great Lafayette, who was at one point the most famous magician in the world. His most loved dog in the world, Beauty, was given to him by Houdini. He died in a fire at the Festival Theatre, and his funeral procession down Princes Street drew larger crowds than the King's Visit the previous year. And I talk a little bit about Castle Dracula, which used to be situated in the middle of Edinburgh, which was part of the Waxwork Museum. And it was in one of the Assembly Closes. I don't know if it's new or old Assembly Closes, one of the two. And there was a wax museum, and on the top floor, this chap called Charles Cameron, considered kind of the father of bizarrest magic, which is the type of magic I generally do. He would have this place called Castle Dracula, and every night he would do a 1-hour magic show from Castle Dracula as Dracula every night. And that closed down in the 90s. It's a shame it's not here. But I mentioned that because, people don't really know about it. It doesn't get mentioned.
I didn't know about that. Yeah. I've been coming here for years.
It's now the university's legal department. So not as entertaining as the Waxworks. Or
the accountants and legal or lawyers dress up as they go, I'm Dracula today.
As scary, yes. But yeah, so we talk about that on the tours. But most of the stuff I do now is predominantly stage magic. And kind of spooky seance type magic. I do stuff here at the Labyrinth and Lauriston Castle.
I mean, you are probably, I don't know whether I've told you this, one of my favorite magicians, because I'm not the most massive. I do like magic, but I like it when there's something more than just a And
kind of the same
showmanship.
I think it's because coming from a theatre background, I like more than just the here's a trick, and now I'm going to do my next trick, and then I'm going to do my next trick. I like something that kind of forms a story and a tale, and especially with my interest in the supernatural, the paranormal, and loving all of the horror world, it just felt like a natural mix and a natural fit.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you got any shows that are in the Edinburgh Festival Fringe?
No, not really, not technically. I am not technically. Well, I'm doing a couple of in-person shows. They aren't it's not part of the Edinburgh Fringe. It's called
Fringe.
It's the Fringe. Yeah, this is my first year not actually doing a traditional run at the Edinburgh Fringe, and I'm working about a quarter of the amount, and earning maybe twice as much as I would.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, not doing the Fringe has definitely been a wise decision this year.
Yeah.
And the stuff I am doing, I'm doing something called the Seance Adventure at Lauriston Castle on the 26th. There's only about 3 or 4 tickets left for that, so go to edhorrorfest.co.uk and grab the last 2 or 3 tickets for that. It's basically, think of the Crystal Maze mixed with a seance in an old 16th century building. Essentially, we bring people in and they get to choose where we go. So that chooses what routines they get to experience. They have to collect ectoplasm from doing these routines. When we collect enough of this ectoplasm, it opens up the seance room and we get a little seance at the end.
Interactive experience.
Oh God, yeah.
Like the adventure game from the 1980s. You don't know.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that because yes, I was born in the 1980s, but I remember the fall of the Berlin Wall, and that is about it from the 80s. That is just the 80s.
Just the 80s. Yeah,
so,
but I mean, you do like retro stuff.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of my stuff as a kid, definitely influenced by a lot of 80s stuff. As a small child, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, absolutely love. My collection is I mean, if we ever need to get a down payment on a house, I can probably sell my Ninja Turtle collection.
Very valuable turtle.
Yeah, and so yeah, huge fan of that. Major fan. Because yeah, I do kind of geeky and nerdy stuff as well with my friend Des O'Gorman, and we do a video podcast, vodcast. I don't know what kids call them these days. A vodcast. Yeah. We still saying vodcast. It's a vodcast. It's on YouTube. It's a YouTube series called Ash and Des Remember, and it's about nostalgia and remembering the past and all of that. And basically, a couple of guys pushing middle age, kind of going, I remember when I was young and this was all grass. Back in the day. Yeah. So if you enjoy remembering when all this was grass, then do check out Ash and Des Remember on YouTube and on Facebook as well. In fact, we're doing kind of the closest thing we get to doing an actual fringy thing is this Saturday. We're doing a live stream of Playing Through Atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing.
Yes, you are.
Yay.
The cult 1990s video board game.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing a playthrough of that. You can find that out at itsashprice.co.uk/fringe. I'll send you the link. I'm not sure the link is live just yet, but
it will be in time.
It will be by Saturday, yes.
But also, you've got the week after. You've got Discovery of Witches. Have you forgotten about that?
No, I haven't forgotten about that. That's part of Spooky History. That's another live stream that we're doing, and it's going to be looking at the history of witchcraft, primarily in Edinburgh. Yeah. Because, so, the whole witchcraft craze, big in Europe in the 15th, 16th century. You know, the Malleus Maleficarum was, I think, 1485, and that was one of the biggest influences on the persecution of witches. But in Scotland, in England, in Britain, whatever we were calling it back then, it wasn't really a huge thing. Actually, if you go to the National Library of Scotland, they've got a book that has all of the list of witch trials throughout Scottish history. And up until the end of the 16th century, there's like a dozen at most throughout Scottish history. And then James VI pops over to Denmark to pick up his bride out of Denmark, gets himself trapped there by stormy seas. And he's kind of, people whispering in his ear saying, hey, you know what's causing these seas, right? It's witches. And so he gets back to Scotland, starts digging around, and it kind of coincides with something that happens in Tranent, which is in East Lothian. It's just about 10, 12 miles that way. And there's a woman called Gilly Duncan, who I think the character has appeared in Outlander or something like that, or some show, and is kind of not the historical Gilly Duncan. Because Gilly Duncan was a servant for a chap called, I want to say Lord Seaton, and he basically wanted more out of her than a maid was willing to give. And so he essentially accused her of witchcraft. He tortured her, and under torture, Gilly Duncan confessed and said that she'd been working with a a collaboration of witches who'd been operating out of North Berwick. One of them, Agnes Sampson, had thrown a cat into the sea, which caused the storms, which stopped James. So this kickstarts James's obsession with witch trials, and I will go into much more detail about this in the actual live stream. But yeah, James creates the book of demonology, which is his terribly written book about how to persecute and identify witches. And there's stuff about werewolves and stuff in it as well. The guy was barking.
He was a very strange man.
He was a very strange man, but he is responsible for one of the largest and most misogynistic acts of domestic terrorism in history. 86% of those who were persecuted and executed were women. You can point out that a portion were men, and that should be remembered as well. But 86% women is disproportionate. That is a misogynistic movement, and it spread beyond Scotland. When he came to power in England, he brought these laws and regulations down with him, because up until then, in England, especially under Tudor rule, you only really got persecuted for witchcraft if you were doing naughty stuff. If you were doing kind of good stuff, you were kind of just left to go on about your own business, but for the most part. But he brings in these persecutions, and it spreads. His books and his thinking are the things that go to Salem, and I'll be talking a lot about it in more detail, but this one man caused a lot of trouble in British history and world history, really. So that's the discovery of witchcraft. 8 p.m. Saturday the 26th.
26th. That's good. So you can see that and then talk about it in Siberia.
Yes.
Been there,
Siberia. What is Siberia? Tell me about Siberia.
It's like a virtual space that you can have. It's like The Sims, only you can talk to people and stuff about things that you've seen. You can put art installations, or you can put screens up. But I think people that are in there at the time are going to be told to see your stream and then come in their little avatars.
Okay.
And you can dance and talk about it.
And
disco. And there will be
no disco.
There will be no disco in the Discovery of Witches, but
Disco of Witches.
Disco of Witches.
The
Disco Witches in Calton Hill.
I mean, that's basically Samhain. So,
exactly. But do you know anything about Calton Hill? I've heard a few spooky stories about that.
Not particularly Calton Hill myself, but it is kind of the centre of where Beltane and Samhain take place each year, and it is a huge event. Paganism and Wicca and a lot of kind of elements of the what developed over the past century or so with kind of some New Age thought has become really popular in Scotland, especially. It's kind of not let go of its kind of pre-Christianized past, and it is a huge celebration and festival and party up on Calton Hill every I think it's May and October for Samhain, and May I think is Beltane. So I mean, if you want kind of ghosts and spooks and spectres, I will avoid talking about people like Major Thomas Weir, because they will come up in my witchcraft talk. It involves a lot of interesting things involving animals and his sister and a sentient wooden staff. Tune in.
A sentient wooden staff.
Yes.
There's definitely got a spirit and a soul, this staff. It talks to you.
Well, I mean, my walking stick is very.
It looks sentient.
It is very similar to what Major Weir would have had, except he had a head carved into it. So if anyone can carve a head into my walking stick.
My father, he's very good at that, but he's living in Wales.
A little bit far away from me. So ghosts and stuff of Edinburgh. Well, we are in the Banshee Labyrinth, Scotland's most haunted pub. So throughout most of its history, Scotland was Edinburgh was a kind of small city surrounded by a 1 mile by quarter mile wall. It wasn't huge. And in the 18th century, it did start to expand. It did start to grow. And one of the things they did was they constructed the South Bridge, which was kind of taking the traffic out of the old town. It created opportunities for merchants and traders, and it had these 19 archways built underneath it. Now, the bridge itself is believed to be cursed, because the first person to cross the bridge was supposed to be the wife of either an advocate or a Lord Mayor, depending on who you talk to. The story will change. But the wife of a famous local. And she died just before it. And not to go back on their word, they made sure she was still the first person to go across the bridge in a horse-drawn hearse. So that created the idea that it was cursed. And these 19 archways underneath it, they were sealed up. And they had levels put into them, and they had 120 of these rooms, which actually I'm just going to be a little bit naughty, and because the camera is a free roaming camera, I'm just going to show you this room, which is the cinema room at the Banshee Labyrinth, which you can't really see a lot of it, but this is
just spooky. Look at the ghosts we've got. Look at how many ghosts we've got in today. There's hundreds of them in.
So yeah, that is this is the cinema room, which is one of those 120 vaults that was built into it. And there's all sorts of spook stories that have developed over the years associated with it. With the Banshee itself, one figure frequently seen is known as the Watcher, a dark, shadowy figure out of the corner of people's eyes. But also Molly, which is a young girl ghost, which has been seen by all of this place, all of this space. And people have reported to the staff that they've seen a young girl wandering through here. And obviously, under over 18s venue, not allowed. So, and customers are surprised. Staff have reported feeling Annie tugging at their hands or the kind of the shirts, because that's all she can reach up to. Members of staff have heard a young child say it to one of the staff members, a chap called Connor. He was once one of the ghosts said he heard something say to him, "It's okay, we like you," which I think equally terrified and reassured him at the same time. So there's those, and also, so Banshee, like a lot of places, was closed down during lockdown. And so no one was in here, certainly no kids. And when they came back in, they took a photo. They noticed something on one of the windows, condensation, a little child's handprint on the inside. So that's a little bit unsettling. So
I mean, children aren't scary. Well, they are a bit scary.
Children are terrifying.
They are scary.
Children are absolutely terrifying. Like they scare me more than anything in the world, because they have no filter. And
that's true.
And there's nothing more scary than absolute honesty and truth. So the vaults themselves, there's all sorts of stories connected with it. Poltergeists and people leaving here with scratches and scars and cuts and all of that. So Edinburgh's got lots and lots of tales about that. Obviously, it has the history of the grave robbers and the murderers Burke and Hare, which kind of to debunk a common myth. Burke and Hare were not grave robbers. They were too lazy. They just murdered people. And yeah, Edinburgh is full of stories of ghosts and ghouls. I don't want to go into too much more, because if you go to YouTube and look for spooky history, you can find quite a few of them. And also,
I've written some of them.
Yes, Elise has written some of them. Some of our best performing episodes, actually.
Yay!
An episode on the history of Puck, and also the Roman Ghosts of York, which I absolutely love. For those of you who aren't aware of the Roman Ghosts of York, kind of the short version is a chap was doing some maintenance under a building there, and he saw a legion of Roman ghosts just wander through. And they weren't abiding by any health and safety laws whatsoever. They didn't have proper safety gear on or anything like that, so wasn't very happy about it.
But this is it. When there is a ghost sighting, there's usually a history of other ghost sightings that aren't necessarily the same one. You usually get a big cluster of them, which is a weird thing.
Well, yeah, there is a so I should kind of make a point that even though I'm heavily involved in the paranormal, I'm a skeptic. I even set up the Edinburgh Skeptical Society.
I'm not saying they are there.
No.
There's a lot of reports.
But what I'm about to say is that one theory put forward, which doesn't have a great deal of support behind it, but one theory put forward is the stone tape theory. The idea that older materials, like the materials that build at the South Bridge, can retain an impression of those that came into contact with it. So that is one of the theories put forward. And it is fascinating. I mean, even though I am a skeptical, I love the paranormal and supernatural. I'm fascinated by it. Ghost stories at Christmas and all of that. And I think what I do, weird stuff happens. Like I was doing a gig the other day at the Panopticon in Glasgow, which is the world's oldest surviving, still in use music hall. Stan Laurel got his stage debut there. A magician by the name of Chung Ling Soo, who was a very famous guy at the time, also performed there. Google Chung Ling Soo. Yeah. William E. Robinson, the very white, very American man behind Chung Ling Soo, but he performed there. So the Panopticon was great. And we were using this webcam, and we were also using an audio recorder to record my audio, and we had a camera at the back of the room to record the show. So we wanted to get a recording of it. And the webcam was so that we could project up on the screen, because it's a huge space. People can't see me doing the close-up stuff. At about the same moment, the recording camera, the webcam, and the audio recorder all stopped working. And this was just a minute or so after there was a weird garbled voice that came through the sound system. It was plugged into my phone at the time. There was no way for that audio to come from. So we get this weird garbled voice come through the sound system, and then 3 of our electronic devices failed. Now, I'm going to assume that it's just like the batteries just, I hadn't charged them properly or something like that, but it's just a really weird, unsettling coincidence. And I love it. So that is now a story that's going to go into my shows going forward.
That is the thing, though, right? It's not that these things don't happen. It's that you can't explain them. Like, weird, freaky crap happens. Oh, am I allowed to say that this time? It's my show. Okay.
I don't know. Can we swear?
This sort of thing,
Gosh darn it.
Gosh darn it. God, gadzooks.
We did a family-friendly show, and Des was just like, Des, you can't say the F word. You can't say it again. Stop saying the F word. Oh my God, Des, saying the F word. It was, they were fine.
Yeah.
But still, it was like, we said this was family-friendly.
Yeah.
We can get away with one F-bomb.
Just one. But, I mean, these things happen. I mean, I've had spooky stuff happen, and I don't, for an instance, think it's actually ghosts or ghouls. If it's just like, I don't know what that is, there's probably an explanation. Sooner or later, it'll pop up. Something. Yeah. Something scientific that we don't understand.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that crop up. There was one very popular idea for a while, and it's still got some merit to it. It's it's called infrasound. And there might be people watching who just go, oh, yeah, I've heard of that. And there'll be some people watching who go, what's that? And there'll be some people watching who go, because it is a controversial idea. Back in the 90s, a chap called Vic Tandy was doing some stuff in his lab. And he started to feel weird and almost like there was a presence with him. Anyway, he discovered it was a result of a broken central heating system, and it was emitting a very low frequency sound of like point something hertz. And it was discovered that infrasound in the right situation can kind of mess with you to some degree. It got taken and ran away with a little bit to even suggesting it could create hallucinations. If infrasound does anything, it's more creating a sense of unease rather than anything else. It's probably not causing hallucinations. So popular theory for a while, probably has some impact, but not as much. And interesting fact, one of the things that can cause infrasound is traffic. We are in a bridge. One of the main thoroughfares of Edinburgh.
Sound is very spooky. I know that in my kitchen once, it sounded like there was like ghostly singing for a couple of days, and it was like, what's going on? And then we realized it was quite a hot day. We had a fan on in one corner. The fan made no noise, but the sound from the fridge was combining with and it was just really just like, what the hell's going on? It's just like we worked out that there was two sounds coming from different directions. But it sounded honestly like there was somebody singing in somewhere from gosh knows where. Gosh darn it.
I mean, I love ghost stories, and I do make it clear in my show. I call myself a paranormal illusionist. I make it very clear in my titling that I am an illusionist. But even still, people love ghost stories. Even people who are skeptical love ghost stories, and they love that sense of being a little bit frightened. And this is a wonderful venue for it. So I tend to do my show in this room just by candlelight. Except when I'm bringing people down when we have to put lights on for safety reasons, because, if they fall and trip and, I don't want that to happen because if they do, they don't pay at the end. So that's a joke. So I do it by candlelight, and it's really wonderful in here. And this is my favorite venue. It's my favorite space. And the staff are absolutely amazing. And they really bend over backwards to help people. And so, it's a fringe. And, people will be doing shows here. And, I just want to take a chance to actually give a shout out to all of the staff of the Banshee Labyrinth, who are absolutely wonderful people. And they've been so supportive to me over the years. And I wouldn't be doing most of what I'm doing if it wasn't for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good venue, and it's been very supportive of PBH for so long. Yeah. Really,
and the Horror Festival as well. I mean, I kind of suggested the idea to them. I think initially I suggested it as, could we use maybe one room? And Dave, manager, was just like, why don't you use the cinema and the chamber and what you guys call the banqueting hall, I call the vault, because it fits in better with the Horror Festival theme. But yes, we ended up doing that, and it's gone on every year here for 8 years, and it's great.
And that's a long time for something to go. I mean, things come and go. 8 years.
Yeah.
It's just really impressive.
Well, the fact that we were able to survive COVID, when a lot of businesses and a lot of organizations collapsed and folded, and a lot of big entities are no longer working and functioning anymore, because of what happened with COVID and then the knock-on effect of the cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
And the fact that, we're still not out of that COVID world yet. I mean, it's not as prevalent as it once was, but people are still getting it. People are still getting sick. And yeah, exactly. I mean, there's been a few shows that have had to be cancelled here because people have got sick. It is still out there.
Yeah.
And, even if it is no worse for the majority of people than mild flu, nobody wants that.
No.
Why do you want to be bedridden for 2 or 3 days or longer and, lose all sorts of stuff? So, it is still out there and people are still cautious. And it's really great that there is digital stuff going on. There was not as much of it because a lot of places basically went, oh, well, we don't care anymore. Let's just go back to 2019. And the world isn't 2019 anymore. As much as we want to pretend it is, there is still an audience out there for digital. There is still people wanting to see it. There's still... We created in the early days of lockdown all sorts of things that made the world a better place. We created engagement and art that was accessible. We created, I'm getting on a soapbox here, we created an opportunity for homeless people. We proved we could end homelessness overnight.
Yeah.
And then
we did it.
And then we just, and then the people with all the power and the ability to do these things just went, okay, cool, well, back to normal now. Enjoy dying on the streets. And it sucks and it's awful. And I know people want to pretend and act like it's gone and everything's in the past and we're now normal again. And I understand that on a psychological level. I know why people are doing that. And I get it. But we need to remember that the world isn't 2019 and digital content at the very least is something that should be being offered more.
I think so, yeah. An awful lot more. But...
We do it during the horror festival. We weren't able to do it as much last year as we'd like. There was a kind of technical hiccup. But this year we are going to be live streaming some of our shows because we have to.
Yeah.
We now live in a world where that should be treated as standard.
Yeah.
That if you are putting on a show, you should at least explore the possibility of being able to do it digitally. Like I understand rights issues are different with digital streams. I understand that for various reasons. Some of my shows can't be live streamed because it alters the impact and it changes it. So, there are reasons why some shows can't be. But every show should be going into production now thinking, can this be live streamed?
Yeah, exactly.
Or made a digital version of it? If not, okay, that's understandable. But if it can, let's at least spend some time exploring it. Because we've got this setup here. We've got a camera, webcam. We've got a microphone. It's all connected together. Very simple, straightforward setup. Yeah. It doesn't look awful. I'm hoping it doesn't sound too awful.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to comment, because we've got a chat box, if anyone wants to say that this is really excellent sound and vision.
Yeah. Or, or just, nice t-shirt. Where can I get them? Well,
or just any questions from Ash. Ash is actually going to do some magic.
Yeah, I am. There isn't actually a table here because...
we can do a table because this doesn't need to be here.
Does that not need to be here?
No,
but can the laptop be moved? Okay,
yeah.
I mean, that's probably not we will try. We will see. We will see what we can do.
Use a little stool instead of a table.
Yeah, let's have a little stool.
Let's see what
let's have a little stool.
Let's see.
Okay, cool. So let's do this then. Okay. We're closing the doors. Okay, doors are closing. Well, I'm just gonna happy Halloween, everybody. It's Halloween coming up. I love Halloween. I'm just going to do a little circle. Hopefully, some of you can kind of see the circle. In here, in this packet, I have got 5 cards, at least. Do you want to come here and join me?
Oh, yeah.
I've got 5 cards, and they've got these designs on them. Show you that. Yeah. So these are ESP designs. We've got a circle, across, a wavy line, square, and a star. In the 1930s, Carl Zener and J.B. Rhine set up through Duke University what became essentially known as parapsychology and recreation of parapsychology. And they used these cards in tests to test psychics. So I want you to just kind of think about one of these symbols at least. Okay?
Yep.
And look at me. Terrifying. Yeah, I think. Okay, cool. Elise, I would like you to say stop at any moment as I take the cards out. So, first card we're taking out is circle. Okay, say stop at any moment when it's your card that you think. Okay.
Sure.
Next one is
stop.
Cross. You went for the cross.
Yeah, but you're not expecting that. Ah, spooky, spooky.
Was expecting that.
Of course he was expecting
very
it.
much my job.
It's not real magic, or is it?
I mean, when I do it, yes, it's real.
Of course it's real.
You want to bring that
Really
stool
real.
over, Elise?
Yeah.
Just between us. I'll pop that stool. Oh, Elise, you've had a stool in the middle of the cinema. I'm funny. Yes. So, and our viewer count has just collapsed.
Plummeted. But apparently it looks really good in Siberia.
Excellent. Siberia. It's like, isn't that like a penal colony in Star Trek or something?
No, it's actually in
in real world as well.
It's real.
An actual real penal colony.
But not with the sea.
Not with the sea. Okay, so Elise. Remember I mentioned the stone tape theory earlier on?
Yeah.
This idea of connecting in with items and objects. Well,
Yeah.
we're going to try something with that. Psychometry is the idea that items or objects can retain this impression and psychics can read that information. Items, objects, photographs. So I have 5 photographs here of Edwardian era ladies, including that one in a rather fetching hat. And I've got 5 gentlemen as well. To connect in with these, Elise, we're going to spell out names by moving one photo from the top of the pile to the bottom for each letter of a name.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry, it will make more sense. I have here a list of round about 500 women's names.
Right.
Say stop at any moment, Elise.
Stop.
Stop there. Do you want me to stop there or continue further?
No, stop.
Okay. The names we've stopped on are Mary, Rebecca, Grace, Betty, and Sarah. So the first name is Mary. Do you want me to start with a male or female pile?
Male.
Okay. Say switch at any point. Mary. M-A.
Switch.
R-Y.
Right.
All right.
Cool.
And usually I have a bigger table for this. So I'm going to pop those two. Could you just hold on to those for a moment, at least?
Okay.
The next name is Rebecca. So male or female pile?
Female.
Say switch at any point. R-E-B.
Switch.
E-C.
Switch.
C-A. All right. Okay. And we'll pop those two together. Hold those in a separate hand. Male or female pile?
Male.
Okay. The next name is Grace. Say switch at any point. G.
Switch.
Blimey. R-A-C-E. All right.
Yeah.
And take those in your third hand. Next name is next name is Betty. Telekinesis.
Betty.
Everybody.
Telekinesis.
Male or female pile?
Female.
Say switch at any point. It was Betty, wasn't it? Betty. B-E.
Switch.
T-T-Y.
Okay.
And I'll place those two together there and those together there. Okay.
Sure.
Now, Elise, I didn't tell you how these people were all connected.
No.
The women, unfortunately, are all victims of murder. The men, all the perpetrators. And we have details on the back of them who they are. So this lady here is Mary Coleman, murdered Cornwall, 1915.
Okay.
You matched her with Harry Thompson, executed for the murder of Mary Coleman. Now you could have said switch. You could have said switch at any point.
I could have.
You could have gone with different names, ended up with different combinations, different starting points. You'd ended up with different combinations.
Yeah.
This lady is Grace Davis, murdered Birmingham, 1912. You matched her with David Carrington, guilty of the murder of Grace Davis.
No.
This lady here, that is Betty Ryder, murdered Manchester, 1913. You matched her with Frank Ierson, life in prison for the murder of Betty Ryder.
Oh, no.
The next one that we have, past any of them, it's fine.
That one.
This lady here is Rebecca Fletcher, murdered London, 1914. You matched her with Andrew Fletcher, executed for the murder of Rebecca Fletcher, hanged 1914, which means the last one.
No.
This lady is Sarah Turner, murdered Leicester, 1911. You matched her with Claude Turner, executed for the murder of Sarah Turner.
Okay.
Well, it gets spookier than that, at least, because I said you could stop at any point in the book.
Yeah.
You did. I did say, do you want to continue on? You chose not to.
No.
The names you stopped on were, you can confirm this, are Mary Coleman,
Yes.
Rebecca Fletcher,
Yes.
Grace Davis,
Yes.
Betty Ryder,
Yes.
and Sarah Turner.
Whoa.
You chose the names, connecting in with them, and then you matched them all without even knowing.
Spooky. I'm so terrified now.
Good.
I
Good.
can't go home. I can't sleep at night anymore.
I mean,
Genuinely.
okay. That's genuine.
I can't genuinely.
You genuinely can't go back home. No, you can't. You're staying
Because
here
I'm
in
staying in Edinburgh.
yeah. So, that's a couple of things I do in my shows.
Yay. It's good. So I would recommend you come and see them. You've got some that are fringe, off the fringe in Edinburgh on Fridays, haven't you?
Yes, I do. So these events are, and I've got some flyers here, which I'll give out to the masses
The ghosts,
that
the
are here.
massive hundreds of thousands of people here.
Yeah, so it's at the Cauldron which is a kind of witchcraft themed potions bar. You can go and make potions. It's amazing. There's one in Edinburgh, one in London, one in Brighton, or it's opening in Brighton. There's one in New York, one in Philadelphia, one in Chicago. It's absolutely fantastic. And I'm doing something called the Witches Seance every Friday. Got Ouija boards. Everyone gets to take part in a Ouija board session at their own tables. There's stuff like this I've done, but with more witchcraft themes. And that's at 7:30 on Fridays. There's 2 of those left. They're £9 a ticket. Do come along. They're great. They're really, really good fun. And if you can't get along to those, I am available for private bookings and travel across the country.
Everywhere. Around the country. Around the world. If you can pay to get there. If you can pay him to get there, you can go anywhere.
Yes, exactly. So do. So yeah, that's we've been talking quite quickly. I realized we're only half an hour into this 1 hour session.
That's all right.
That is fine. So
talk about more stuff.
We can talk about more stuff, exactly. So I want to talk about the horror festival this year, because we're not revealing our information publicly yet, and there's some comments in the thread.
That's great. That's what it says.
Brilliant. Thank you. And so we're doing. We're here at Lauriston Castle. There's a few more things we can't talk about just yet, but we've got some great shows coming on here. We've got a show on Halloween called So I Was a Teenage Bisexual, which is basically a mix of queer identity and 1950s B movies, which is going to be brilliant. We've got a show coming in which is set after the zombie apocalypse, and it's basically a self-help group where you kind of sit in with the self-help group. So I'm really looking forward to that. We've got something involving inflatables, and I need to kind of dig into that a little bit more, because I don't handle a lot of the acts. We've got a participant liaison who does, but I just kind of hear secondary things. And it's like, that sounds amazing. So we've got that. We've got a lot of storytelling. We've got a lot of theatre. We've got an event called The Ritual, which is on during the Fringe as well. It's actually called The Master during the Fringe. It's just Stefan by himself. Usually he performs it with his colleague Greg with The Ritual. So we're getting The Ritual here in October. But go and see Stefan's show. It's in the Banshee Labyrinth at 9:50 every night in the Chamber. I think that's the time. It's brilliant. It's hilarious. It's improv and comedy and storytelling, and it is amazing. Go and check it out. It's fantastic. We've got improvised horror comedy. We've got seances on Halloween. We've got cabaret events. We've got a live radio recording of a theatre play. We've got loads of stuff going on. So that is kind of a sneak peek of what's going to be released in September. And tickets will be available from edhorrorfest.co.uk from early September.
That's good. Are you scouting for next year? Because obviously you've got all the programs sorted for this year.
So we tend to open up submissions at the latest in January. This time we're going to release them a little bit earlier, probably in December, and have them run through to about May. So it's about a 4 or 5 month period. And if you want to take part, you fill in a submission form. It's there's 2 options: either a 4-night run, which will run the weekend before Halloween here at the Banshee Labyrinth, and that's £50 participation fee, or there's a one-off on Halloween, which is 13 quid. And we have people on the doors, staffed on the doors, and you get some really amazing venue space, and you go in the program and all of that. And it's really good, and I think really worth it. And you can kind of charge what you like for admission, and you get complete control of what you do with your show within practical and legal reason. Obviously. At present, it is just over 18s we are open to in terms of the types of shows that can be put on.
Well, I mean, horror for under 18s is a tricky selling. I'm not sure whether you get anyone.
No, it's not actually. It's because kids like spooky
stuff. They do like spooky stuff. They like ghosts and stuff.
We do something.
Monsters.
We do something in partnership with the Edinburgh Museums out at Lauriston Castle. It's not quite a show that we run. It's one we kind of help produce. It's called the Terror Trail. And we create an interactive treasure hunt around the grounds, and there's characters around that you kind of interact with, like trolls and monsters. Then inside there's ghost storytelling, and there's spooky magic, and there's arts and craft, and there's kind of snacks and all sorts going on. So kids love it. Kids love it. But weird, spooky stuff. Like when I do my psychic surgery, kids love the psychic surgery. It's weird and disgusting.
But you have to tailor it really. There's that is not appropriate for kids. I mean, I know that my uncle showed me and my brother and baby cousins they were very young. American Werewolf in London, when we were all quite impressionable. I was just about the age that I could cope, and I thought it was funny because he told me it was funny. I was like, all right, I'll go with it. But the other younger kids were terrified for months and weeks and years afterwards.
I think the first horror film I saw was A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I was about 10 years old, and I was definitely too young for it, but I really enjoyed it. And I've always been interested in kind of spooks and scariness because it started when I was 11, and my granddad was a spiritualist. He never said he was a spiritualist. No. He never called himself a spiritualist. He was a spiritualist. He had all of the paraphernalia. He had the books. He went to spiritualist sessions. He still called himself a Christian. I mean, I go into a kind of a bit more detailed history of spiritualism in most of my shows. Also, there was a long form live stream that I did last year on Spooky History Channel on the history of spiritualism. In short, spiritualism is basically DLC for Christianity. It's kind of a bolt on you can have, and it's about talking to the dead. And my granddad took me to one of these seances when I was 11 years old. It was at the Adult Education Centre in Leicester, and we went in, and the medium comes out, and she goes, "Is there an Ethel? I've got an Ethel coming through. Does anyone connect with the Ethel?" And my granddad was like, "Yes, my mum." And got a message from Ethel, and he was convinced it was from his mum. And I was like, "Oh my god, my great grandmother has come through." And then we stood around a table and put our fingers on a table, and the table started to bounce and move and shift around, and almost like there is a physiological explanation for it. And that got me really hooked on ghosts and supernatural. And from that moment on, I was sold. I was hooked. And I talk about this in my show, Paranormal Illusionist, which is my kind of name branded show. It's the show I do that is basically the spooks and the scares, and it's easy to fit into most spaces and venues. And so I talk about that a lot, and it got me really interested in it. And when I was younger, I used to kind of go ghost hunting on the local park. There was a story that a ghost train came rocketing through the park. There used to be a train track there.
Oh, right, yeah.
And, we believe that there'd been an accident in there. And so we kind of went out ghost hunting. We thought if a train was coming through, it would leave marks. It would sprinkle talcum powder on the ground. And I went back the next day, and there were footprints, and that was it. And we kind of didn't think as kids that if it was going to leave tracks in talcum powder, it would also leave tracks in the soil there. We hadn't thought that deeply, but we thought we were being rational and scientific. So, and then when I moved up to Edinburgh, I did. So my nose is really itchy today. These glasses kind of sitting weird. I went to them off. And sorry, if you itchy nose so much, the usual explanation is it's like you're basically so much cocaine. It's not.
It's the ghost.
It's the ghost. Yeah, it is. It is the ghost.
But the show before,
yes,
they use flour. Yes. The flour
has
gone in the air. It was fake.
That'll be it.
That was part of their show.
Oh, that actually
there was flour
genuinely
everywhere.
will be it. It got me interested in the paranormal. When I moved to Edinburgh, I did all resting actors do, and I became a ghost tour guide, and that got me deeper into it. Then I got interested in kind of skepticism, because I went into working on the ghost tours as believing, and when you spend so much time in there day in, day out, it either confirms your beliefs or it makes you go the complete opposite way. There is kind of no middle ground.
No.
And it kind of sent me the other way, because going in there day in and day out and seeing why people were reacting to certain things, I went, oh, there's explanations here. And that got me interested in kind of exploring psychic trickery with from a performance point of view, like metal bending and stuff like that. And that led in turn to me delving into the history of spiritualism and developing a show called How to Be a Psychic Con, when I talked about psychic trickeries and taught people how to do metal bending, stuff like that. And that led into me becoming a paranormal magician. It's weird. It's kind of, I never thought I'd end up doing this, and it's great. I love it. And I've softened with age. Like when I first started out with skeptics movement, like a lot of people in the late noughties, it was kind of very almost cultish, to be honest, when you kind of look back, and quite hard line on it. And I've kind of mellowed in recent years over it, because my kind of takeaway now is if it's not actually causing harm, then whatever.
Yeah.
You know, there are situations where they are, you know, psychics using trickery to take advantage of the bereaved. Yeah, that's nasty. But also there's the angle of people who genuinely believe they're psychic and people who genuinely believe you get comfort from it. It's a really difficult grey area. It's not as simple as, you know, this is all nonsense, so let's destroy it. It's a difficult area, because I don't want to be the bastard that turns to a grieving parent and say, well, I'm sorry, your baby's really gone forever and there's no ghost there. Sorry about that.
So there's ghosts, yes.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where you soften with age. And
is that better though, having a ghost baby in your house?
I mean, honestly, of all the things that I'm skeptical of, I want ghosts to be real the most.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is twofold. One, I miss my nan. So much. This year was the 20th anniversary of her passing, and I want so badly to be wrong on the existence of ghosts and the afterlife, because I miss her terribly. And I miss my granddad, and you know, who taught me and got me into all of this. So I want to be wrong with that. So that's one reason I want to be wrong. The other reason is, despite the fact that I kind of try to kind of rally against the egos of the world, I do as a performer have an ego, and you know, I don't want to die. I want to be here forever. It's like, you know, it does suck a little bit.
So there's a lot of boredom, but I get used to that. There's like boredom and then some excitement. Hey, we got kicked out because of the Wi-Fi. Well, we're coming back for the next 10 minutes, hopefully. Who knows?
You may have to say that again into the actual microphone.
Yeah, we're coming back. The Wi-Fi kicked us out. That's the trouble with live. It's live. You can tell it's live because of that. So there's probably going to be some sort of jump cut because of the way it is, that you don't get like da 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 back later or something. You just get a jump cut. So we're here and then we're here. It's like, wow, it's ghosts.
So yeah, that's there's an element of missing my family and also wanting kind of not to die myself, because I quite like being alive. But being a ghost,
where we were in the conversation,
somewhere around about there.
Somewhere around about there. Maybe we went and we came back. This is the afterlife.
Yeah, this is the afterlife.
You're all in it too.
We're dead.
Yep,
we're dead. Just like the stream. So yeah, I mean, I love this supernatural stuff. And I do really enjoy it. And you know, there's a lot of ethical grey areas and issues that have to be addressed. And you know, I do make it clear in my shows that, you know, that this genuinely is theatre and performance and magic. But even then, there's a weird phenomenon where even if, no matter how hard you insist on that, no matter how much you insist it, you still get some people who say, no, you say you don't have any powers, but you do. And like, there's no way to respond to that without kind of going, well, okay, this is how the trick is done. And I kind of can't do that.
You don't want to do that, no. It's an illusion.
Yeah, and so it can be really difficult. Even if you insist that you are not genuinely psychic, people are still like, no, but you are.
No, that's what all of them say. That proves that you genuinely are, because you wouldn't say that unless you genuinely were.
So yeah, but I love doing this as a job, and it's been nice not doing a traditional fringe, because I think the shows with the cauldron are listed under the fringe, but from my point of view, that's kind of a private booking. And I've got my own booked events that I'm doing, and the live streams, a couple of digital things, but generally I'm not really doing the fringe, and it's been great for my physical and mental health.
I think so. I mean, I haven't been here since 2019, and I'm still nervous. I'm only doing like these, and I've got my one-person show later on, which is I'm nervous about that. I'm like, oh my goodness, if I was doing the whole thing, I'd just be like, no. You just
because I got, so the whole reason I've got this walking stick is back in March 2020, I got an absolutely rotten dose of COVID, and my breathing is still not completely back to normal 3 years later, and it's left me chronic fatigue is a very it's not very common, but it's not a particularly rare fallout from viruses and viral infection, the post-viral syndrome. And when you've got billions of people contracting disease, you get a lot of people who get sick. And I've got kind of issues of chronic fatigue and agoraphobia and a few areas there, and so that's made it difficult to get back into doing stuff. And I just don't have the energy anymore to do a full run. I tried to kind of do something last year, and I had to cancel it at the last minute, which I've never had to do before. And I've kind of settled into a point of this. It's why I'm doing what I'm doing this year. And, it has been better for me, for my mental health, my physical health, my bank balance.
Exactly. It sounds like you're
on a purely capitalist position. It's actually been not doing the fringe has been the better decision.
I think a lot of people that have done the fringe find that if they hadn't done the fringe, that would have been the better decision. So
well, yeah. I mean, I've got a friend who's doing it with a paid venue, and he's paid in total with everything that's gone into it about $6,000, and just under half of that was the venue hire fee.
That's not even the most expensive venue.
It's not. It's not. And I'm going to be honest. I've done things with the PBH's Free Fringe before, and the venues can be a mixed bag.
Yeah, you get what you get.
You get what you get. This Banshee's great. It's brilliant. Some of them are creative, and but I would say that the overwhelming majority of the free fringe venues, even the slightly dodgier ones, are at least on par with, if not better than, this paid venue. And they're paying nearly $3,000 for that venue. You do things like the Free Fringe and the other similar events out there, which I'm probably not allowed to mention because it's a Free Fringe stream, but you get a better setup for it. And there are obviously loads of issues throughout the Fringe, and this isn't my soapbox to get into that, but I will say, for all the issues that are out there, PBH's Free Fringe is the better option for people to come and do the Fringe. It is the option where you are more likely to succeed and do something. When people do it well, it's very collaboratively. Sometimes it should be. Some acts don't. Some acts are still quite selfish and arrogant, egotist. Take care of your venues. Don't leave it as a dump, please. But generally speaking, it is the better option to do. And I can't imagine, even being a local, doing the paid Fringe. And
so your friend's not having a good experience in the paid?
Not particularly, no. There's all sorts of issues, and I can't go into detail with it because it would highlight who the friend is and what the venue is. But
subjudice as we speak.
but basically, they're paying a lot for something that is not substantially better than some of the free fringe venues. In fact, I would say is not as good as certainly the Chamber Room here at the Banshee Labyrinth. I would say the Chamber Room at the Banshee Labyrinth is one of, if not the best spaces on the Free Fringe, contender for one of, if not the best spaces on the Fringe. It is a perfect little black box theatre. It is great. And, you get that for free, but pay thousands for a space that is
substandard.
But that is the
issues.
Ash is now about to transition into a rant about capitalism.
It's too early.
It is too early for a rant about capitalism. But, the Fringe is a mixed bag, and there were problems with it, big problems with it, and there were some great things about it.
There are.
And for all the problems I might have in various different areas, I do think PBH's Free Fringe is one of, if not the best options. Certainly, it's one where you can get a good quality venue, and not shell out thousands of pounds for it.
It's also like, it is accepting that you're not necessarily going to get the best venue, but you are going to get a venue that, even if you're crying in your bucket, it's probably still better than some of the ones you spent thousands on, which is a terrible indictment on the Fringe generally, I think.
Yeah, there are all sorts of issues with Fringe. Talk to any locals about some of the issues that we kind of have with the Fringe. Again, not going onto a soapbox with it, but there are problems or issues that need to be resolved. They really, really do. I mean, there's a lot of issues with kind of accommodation from the Fringe point of view, not having enough, but also some of the legislation that's been brought in to protect residents year round has been criticised by the Fringe and several organisations, and that's kind of not
good because you want to be on the side of the residents. But I mean, while at the same time acknowledging, yes, it is difficult for acts, but the people that live here all year round, you've got to have rights.
Yeah, exactly. There does kind of come a point where you go, look, it's great to have this festival here, and yes, it does bring in money, but
not everyone likes it.
If it's being done at the cost of residents, then that is not good, because
you've got to be collaborative. You've got to do it for the benefit of the people of Edinburgh, above all else.
Exactly.
Otherwise, what's the point?
Exactly. It's the Edinburgh Festival.
Yeah, exactly.
And Edinburgh needs to be at the heart of it. And the venues bend over backwards, especially on the free Fringe. The Banshee Labyrinth go above and beyond what is necessary. The staff help out in so many ways that they don't have to. And thank your venue staff, tip your venue staff, buy your venue staff
chocolate
drinks,
and flowers. They probably don't want flowers, do they? Like, don't get us flowers.
And don't act like you are the best thing in the world here, because
you're not.
You're probably not.
Even if you think you are.
Yeah. If you think you are, you're definitely, not. But
that's the whole problem. The biggest people there's like good big people that are they're humble. It's just they're regular human beings, and they're not being ridiculous about it. And there are other people that are just really exploiting people. Well,
there's a lot of exploitation. There's a lot of, for all of its faults, the Fringe Society has tried to crack down a little bit on poor payments and poor practices, which is kind of resulting in some unnamed spaces kind of pulling away and kind of doing their own thing. And it's like a lot of places have been pulled up for how they treat volunteers. And it's a difficult environment for everyone. And, from performers to residents to volunteers to staff, everyone is having a difficult time trying to do the best they can. And I think we need to remember that if your venue staff are a little bit snappy and short, they're working 12, 13 hours themselves.
They're working in the middle of the night.
If people are a little bit on edge, remember that a little bit of kindness and understanding goes a long way. And supporting each other is what the Fringe should be about. It's not about coming up and being the next big thing, because the chances of that happening are next to zero.
Negligible.
Don't expect that. But expect to work hard, enjoy yourself, and work with people, not against people. The Fringe works its best when we all work together.
Yes, exactly.
Regardless of who we are and who we're with.
Collaboration. Not in the bad way, not collaboration like in
World War II.
Not
that type of collaboration.
Don't do that.
No, don't.
More cooperation, more Sesame Street cooperation. That's a better word, really.
But there's a lot of issues with the Fringe that need to be changed, and it can be changed on the ground level by people just working together and coming together as one and singing Kumbaya. And I've gone from the anti-capitalist rant to I'm now becoming a hippie rant. But yes, that is where I want to be.
That's where he wants to be. And on that bombshell, I think we shall leave you.
Yeah.
And this has been amazing. Great experiment. It's slightly went wrong in the middle, but that's what experiments do. You have to see how it works.
We'll see how many people I've alienated and upset and offended with that last 5 minutes.
Who cares? But this is good. I've got another show, just me. I don't know how that's going to go. The internet might kick me off again, but I'm going to try. And that's all you can do. So have a lovely day. Bye-bye. See you soon. Bye.